Welcome in, folks, to Wave News Extra. Starting a little behind, but that's all good at 8:06, and checking out this view from our SkyTrack camera, observing the downtown lights and a bit of that cloud layer hanging over. Let's bring it up that the rain probably going to stick around. We saw a pretty busy raining day already as we're wrapping up our Wednesday, September 24th. For the latest on what we can expect as we unwind on Wednesday night. Looking forward to the rest of the week. It'll be meteorologist Ryan Hoke kind of walking us through that tonight on Wave News at 11. So hope you stick around for that when we do begin that. But in the meantime, as you join us here through the different social media streams or on the Wave Now app, we're going to go over some of the big stories of the day. There'll be an in-studio discussion coming up in a little bit with our Wave News reporter, Logan Perrone, when it comes to bus riders on TARC and the changes that the agency is going to roll out starting the summer of next year, and just discussing why this is happening, what these changes might look like. So hope you stick around for that. We're going to start, though, with some of the big stories of the day that our reporting team has been staying on top of. And I'm adjusting some videos here to bring you back in. So in essence, what we're looking at here is for the first time that we were there in court today, this morning, we're hearing from the mother of a man accused of killing a paving and construction worker and shooting an off-duty LMPD officer. Keyshawn Stewart charged with murdering Fred O'Bannon. He's also charged with shooting and trying to kill LMPD Sergeant Chris Lane. It'll happen on the Watterson back in 2021. So we were there back in court for day two, sharing what Stewart's mother had to say about his condition in the days leading up to both the shootings. The defendant's mother taking the stand for the second day of her son's trial, and she shared about the family's long history of mental health issues. The defendant, Keyshawn Stewart, being the youngest of 5 kids, his mother, Ophelia Rowland, in court, saying that several of his siblings also deal with their own mental health struggles. And when it comes to Stewart, mom saying he's been diagnosed with PTSD, hyperactivity, schizophrenia, and that the days before that shooting happened, November of 2021, in her recollection, were extremely difficult.
He was having manic episodes. He was paranoid. He was thinking somebody was out to get him. We kept having to restrain him.
Rowland went on to say on the witness stand that Stewart was not sleeping at that point. And in fact, she said by the time of the shootings, he probably had not slept in 3 to 4 days. The mother going on to say her son never mentioned anything about wanting to hurt anyone. And she also says she doesn't know where he got the gun, and that police say he used that gun to shoot O'Bannon and Sergeant Lane. The mother, again on the witness stand, Ophelia Rowland, saying that there was a gun at home, but she says that one was locked in a safe. Moving on to more stories tonight. This is something we learned about. A man shot someone on a motorcycle after a road rage case in Grayson County here in Kentucky. Deputies are looking for the person who fired that shot. It happened yesterday around 6:45 on the Western Kentucky Parkway, 6:45 p.m. Grayson County Sheriff deputies say all this went down near the mile 113, so 113 mile marker. Some more information. They say an SUV driver was going fast, speeding, trying to catch up to the motorcycle rider. The driver tried to run that bike off the road, forcing the driver into a ditch in the emergency lane. The SUV driver pulls over. A passenger gets out, firing several shots at the motorcyclist. Now, no one was hurt. That's what deputies confirmed. The shooter got back inside the SUV. They took off. Some drivers passing by, they stopped to help the man who was attacked on his motorcycle, but they left before police could arrive to start their investigation. The sheriff's office, meanwhile, is releasing some additional details about who they believe is the shooter, some descriptive, some descriptions of who he might be: 6 feet tall, average build, shoulder length hair. If that's something you might have been passing by in this part of the Western Kentucky Parkway and in this investigation that could help deputies, certainly something they would be more than willing to hear from you all. All right, send up some video. And empty house fires in their own right can leave a lot of damage. They also could take a lot of firefighter power just to take care of them and put them out before they hurt anybody who's living in nearby homes or buildings. Louisville fire crews say they had to battle 2 of these empty home fires very early this morning. I want to show you some video that was recorded and shared by LFD. The first fire happened just before 1:30, very early this morning on Round Street in the Portland neighborhood. When crews got there, they found fire coming from both the first and second floors of this empty building. Firefighters say they struggled to get inside because there were some boarded up doors. Everything inside was also creating a bit of a challenge. The fire, they did manage to put it out in just under an hour. The Red Cross was also contacted to help 3 people who were found after this fire was put out. There was also a similar fire on Dixie Highway, and that'll be something we'll dive a little deeper into those details for you tonight. Not just on wave3.com, of course, but something we'll touch back on for any updates on Wave News at 11. So come back into the studio. Some sad news we learned earlier today as well was the passing of longtime Jefferson County Sheriff John Aubrey, who died at the age of 86. He was first elected to this job in 1998, serving 7 terms in office. Aubrey retired from LMPD back when it was Louisville Police Department in December of 1990. He reached the rank of colonel after more than 28 years within the department. And then on top of that, he'd already spent 32 years as a member of the Army Reserve. So in the meantime, being a part of the Army Reserve, the people who knew Aubrey best say he was always ready to talk to those that he protected and served. Funeral services, they're still being planned officially. We'll let you know when those are confirmed. Aubrey had planned to serve out the remaining 21 months of his current term. In fact, this past March, he announced that he was not going to be seeking another term and that someone would eventually succeed him. So as for whatever the mayor, Craig Greenberg, decides to do as far as appointing that interim, whether it be the deputy chief sheriff, what they decide to do will be something we'll let you know when that decision is made. Looking at, let's see, I was trying to find a video here, and I think I have found it. So I'm going to set it up for you. This is the beauty of producing the show live. So I'm going to bring this up here to let you all know to, by the way, this is something we're going to discuss. This is just so far what we know and what we've been able to share with you on Wave News at 5, 6, and on 7. But coming up tonight at 11, this was something our reporter Julia Richardson was spending a little time going back out to this part of town around McCready and Richard Avenue, because it was a shock to find out that someone would be so brazen to assault a young girl. And part of that escape from the suspect caught on camera. Police want your help if you think you might know or see or remember something that could point them in the right direction. Julia Richardson is going to have a closer look at what some neighbors have to say and where police stand on their investigation. But nonetheless, this young girl assaulted while she was waiting to be picked up from school. And right now, officers are trying to find who did this. So take a look in the frames in this vertical video, but you're going to see for brief moments at a time who the suspect is. LMPD shared this video. They published it, and you could see a suspect running away from where they presume the crime happened. This was around 3 p.m. last Thursday, again around McCready and Richard. This is near Sacred Heart and Holy Spirit schools. Police say the suspect inappropriately touched the girl before taking off. The victim, though, was actually able to record this person running away. So again, if you know anything about the case that could help, you're asked to reach out to LMPD's anonymous tip line. And again, you do stay anonymous in that situation. Moving on to some more stories that our Wave News reporting team spent looking at. Dozens of Kentucky hemp farmers are directly reaching out to Senator Mitch McConnell and making the case that his policy decisions are threatening their livelihood. The complaint comes after McConnell tried to restrict drinks and products infused with hemp-derived THC, citing that those pose threats to kids. Our Wave News team talked to a business owner about what this could mean for his company, but it's part of a huge, well, I shouldn't say huge, but a sizable group. A letter signed by 58 Kentucky hemp farmers delivered to McConnell Monday, and they emphasize in bold letters, quote, "Do not criminalize our harvest, protect our farms." So on top of sending the letter, they want a meeting so they can convince the senator that regulation is what's needed instead of a ban. In August, McConnell tried to ban those hemp-derived THC products in drinks and gummies, for example. A ban like that would, according to the farmers, threaten their jobs, and even at factories and companies like Cornbread Hemp, where THC-infused seltzers are made for customers who are 21 and older. Cornbread Hemp's co-founder, Jim Higdon, talked to us saying regulators need to get involved in restricting access to products by children. So that should be regulators' job, he argues, and not Congress's.
We have been advocating for 21 and over age regulations for these products for years now, and implementing a 21 and over age check like Governor Abbott has just done in Texas is exactly what we have been advocating for in order to protect kids and young people from accessing these products.
So the hemp that provides THC in Cornbread's products is grown on 60 acres of farmland in Marion County. Higdon says Cornbread's products are actually getting more popular, so much so the amount of acreage could double to satisfy that demand. And the company is hiring right now 100 people whose jobs could end if there is a hemp-derived THC ban imposed. We did reach out to a spokesman from Senator McConnell's office. They did not say if the senator has agreed to meet with the farmers, but the spokesman also said McConnell is talking to parties on both sides of the issue. Seeing if I was going to bring up, okay. What we're going to do real quick, actually, yes, let's do this. I'm going to bring you back into the studio. What we're going to do is set up on a couple more stories. And as we take this quick commercial break to reset, to share a brand new technology that's going to help folks reaching out if they have emergencies here in the Louisville Metro, the latest modern technology for a face-to-face conversation. And the breaking news, of course, of the deadly shooting at that ICE facility in Dallas earlier today. We're going to hit on that and bring in our Wave News reporter, Logan Perrone, in for our conversation on the big changes coming to bus riders and the bus system in general for TARC here in the Metro. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, be right back with much more of Wave News Extra. Welcome back into Wave News Extra, coming up on 8:20 on this Wednesday night. A quick update. We're learning one of the people hurt in the shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas earlier today was a Mexican citizen. Again, this happened this morning at a field office for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The FBI says 29-year-old Joshua John, whose picture you just saw there, was the suspect who started shooting at migrant detainees who were boarding a bus. 2 people were hurt. The Mexican consulate general in Dallas confirmed one of them is a Mexican citizen. 2 people were killed. The shooter died, the FBI saying that he shot himself. And while the motive itself is not exactly known yet, we're hearing commentary and statements from local, state, and federal leaders. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, one comment here saying that the violence has to stop.
Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other.
The FBI says they are investigating this as an act of targeted violence. The gunman's brother being quoted recently by reporters saying he didn't think his sibling was interested in politics. Coming back here to a story I want to let you all know happening in the metro when it comes to if you're ever in need of emergency and call 911. I want to play the full report that our Wave News anchor Brian Schlonsky put together. In essence, emergency responders have a new tool they hope saves lives during 911 calls. It's called Video to 911, and it's actually letting 911 call takers start a live video stream during emergency calls, very similar to if you used your smartphone and want to initiate a FaceTime for Apple, of course, but the same could apply for your Android, but just that face-to-face smartphone conversation. And so this is our report. Okay. I was trying to play that video for you all. So we're going to see if we'll switch some things around. This is a file that apparently was not working. All right. No worries then. What we're going to do is, again, just take you back outside to the downtown SkyTrack camera. Enjoying some nice temperatures, by the way. Definitely a cool down compared to what it's been feeling like, if you remember, over the weekend. Much warmer on that front, so to say. And we're seeing just a little bit of a lightning bolt there way off in the distance. Credit to our storm tracking team for letting us know exactly what is going to be going on. And by the way, a reminder, you can always download the Wave Weather Now app for if things ever get a little hairy out there. If you're driving and just want to be prepared as you get in to go where you need to go, the Wave Weather Now app, an excellent tool. Our meteorologist Ryan Hoke going to join us later on tonight for Wave News at 11 as we prepare for the back half of this week, getting closer to ending September, heading into October, by the way, and what that will entail. All right, at this point in tonight's stream, want to welcome in our Wave News reporter, Logan Perrone. Logan making some time for us since today he took a crack at sort of explaining some of the decisions, Logan, that factored in some pretty big changes that are coming for TARC, for bus riders across Louisville Metro. In fact, the word, I believe in one of the words in your reporting used to describe this is very much of an overhaul mentality because of the scale of the changes. But so in essence, just walk us through, this isn't something that's happening next month or right around December. There's still some time where this kind of has to be rolled out, no pun intended, but because there are some big changes and the reasons for what they're deciding to pick and choose on routes and services to save.
Yes, and I actually want to preface that this isn't something that is new. It is actually something that we've been reporting since back in the spring. So if you guys might remember, we had discussed that TARC was looking to change their services, and ultimately that came down to funding. We'll touch on that bit in a sec. So basically, there were three options back in the spring that they could have chose from, and this week, actually, yesterday, that being Tuesday, they ultimately decided on this, what they call the new network, the new TARC network. And what it is it's going to be something that, yes, route service will get cut, overall service hours go down, but in the end, it makes it more efficient for the people that actually use and, ride on TARC. So it's a catch-22 because what you end up with is, yes, less service, but it's going to be overall better. And it also does, what my report goes into depth on is it truly focuses on getting the funding later down the road. So again, the reason we talked about funding in the spring and why there were three different options is, TARC needs more funding to operate. The occupational tax is what funds TARC. It hasn't changed since TARC became a thing. So we're looking at nearly, if not a little more, I believe, 50 years of the same funding mechanism, the same tax rate that funds a service that just can't survive in today's world with that type of money. So again, what you end up with, guys, is what we see here, and I'm just going to go into the numbers a little bit.
Sure.
12% reduction in service hours, 20% reduction in the number of people that live near service, but ultimately there's a trade-off there. So accessibility to jobs, that is increased by 5% with this new plan. And then this one's the biggest jump, 46% jump in the number of people who will live near frequent service. So maybe not necessarily the people who live directly by service, but who are by near frequent service, that nearly doubles here.
And would you argue, Logan, and of course, I would urge folks, the map and the resources are there. It's going to be linked to stuff that Logan and we've been reporting on online. But there's a lot of emphasis, perhaps, when it comes to downtown transits and corridor. I don't know if that metric has something to do with that projection, in that if they think, there's the ridership, the volume of people, depending on the time of day, they want to come into downtown to work, and then having access to that bus ride that can take them within reason back home to part of the network if it happens to be close to where they live.
Right. So ultimately, what you're looking at when you look at these maps, guys, is that it does have an emphasis on getting people downtown, getting people to their jobs, whether that is in the central business districts or in other parts of the city. The emphasis is on, where are these riders? Where are they taking the bus system, and where do they need to go? So ultimately, by having TARC, implement this new network, what you end up with is a system that's going to be faster, smoother, and ultimately more frequent. And that was the biggest thing that TARC said last night when they unveiled this, was that they heard that they wanted more frequency for the riders. Now, I'll be quite honest. I live out, again, towards the eastern half of Louisville. I don't necessarily know exactly where my bus stop is. I know that that's a heavy car traffic area. So there, I know for a fact that there are less bus riders. I don't hardly see TARC come out there as much. Whereas, when we go report, say in, like tonight, we were on Broadway, of course, I'm going to see more people using TARC. The bus system is more utilized down there. So by eliminating some routes, by taking some routes with less frequency out of the equation, you are then able to move your resources better to serve the people that need it more. So it just ultimately is yes, it is a cut. That is not to say it's not a cut, but it is a cut so that they can actually rearrange resources and better utilize what they have.
And not to forget, perhaps a point where, they understand, and I know this was conversations with Director Gibson at TARC, and just understanding the different parameters that they have to play with, Logan. But there was sort of I'm just reading a quote off here based off your reporting from today. He's looking at what could be the, quote, financial cliff, fiscal year 2029 and 2030. So this buys them, in theory, some financial time for the next 3 years, but it sounds like they still kind of see, I'm not trying to minimize its impact for folks out there who depend on this service, that you're kicking a can down the road, but it sounds
exactly what I said.
But it sounds like that this is going to be a recurring problem come 4 or 5 years from now. And I know, there may be some perspective. I know in the piece we were showing here, you talked to District 6 Councilman JP Lininger, but it brings up the question. The occupation tax is what funds TARC. Who is and who is not willing to pay for the tax to continue funding the service?
So it's not necessarily who's willing to pay for it, but it ultimately comes down to, guys, how do we get that occupational tax to a level that actually supports what TARC needs in 2025? And then, of course, beyond. So realistically, we'd be saying what tax rate would support TARC in, say, 2031, 2032, things like that. And so the only way that gets changed is through a ballot referendum. So what happens, or what needs to happen, is Metro Council needs to bring it for a vote. They vote on putting it on the ballot, and then the voters get a say. And when I got to speak with Councilman Lininger here, he was telling me, look, you look at Nashville, you look at Cincinnati, you look at Indianapolis, all these cities have done the same thing. They've brought it to the voters, and the voters have overwhelmingly and time again shown, hey, this is what we want. We want more reliable service. We want to be able to fund our public service, because, again, you never know when you're going to need to take the bus. But at some point, if you need to, you want to know it's going to be there. And so it's one of those things where, when you look at how our other sister cities in the area are doing, again, Nashville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, all really good examples of investment in public transportation, according to Lininger. These cities have done the work. They have brought it to the voters. The voters decided this is what we want. And at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. He was when I was talking with Lininger today, he said, look, I've had the conversation with Morgan McGarvey, in the U.S. Senate, or I'm sorry, the U.S. House of Representatives out in Capitol Hill. There's no extra funding coming from the federal government until Louisville itself, Jefferson County, increases its contribution to funding TARC. So any little lifeline we could get from the state, any little lifeline we could get from the federal government, those aren't going to come realistically.
It still hinges on Metro readjusting its percentage that it's willing to fund to support TARC.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
I'll tell you this. Let's paint the picture like this. Your dollar in 1970 does not pay for the same things that a dollar would get you in 2025.
It's
right?
inflation.
Exactly. So how can we realistically, this is the thought process, expect to have the same tax rate, or a lower tax base to fund what's ultimately costing more? Not to mention, with ridership being down, you lose money on fares. And when fares go up, you lose riders. So there's no real good balance outside of, how, when you look at how it's funded through the occupational tax, that's got to go up to meet increasing demand. That's really what it comes down to. And that's the conversation that Linninger had with me. He said, look, that's ultimately what will fund it. And he told me he believes, look, if we put it on the ballot, he believes the voters, the people of Louisville, they will come up, stand up to the plate, and they'll hit it out of the park. He believes that the occupational tax will ultimately go up, in a way that supports TARC being funded, beyond what this does. And I want to add here really quick, folks, what was said last night. I'm just reading the quote. Our projections are, and this is from the director of TARC, our projections are by making changes, we can get by the 29, the 30 budget before we're talking about financial cliffs. Financial cliffs is what got us to the three options that we had seen prior to this decision. Again, that was the three options this spring.
And remind us, this was enhanced, which is the option they are really going in on, versus the growth, which is what we heard.
So it was actually based. Yes,
Okay.
It was actually based on the enhanced. So
Got it.
Just to backtrack a little bit, guys, because I did this reporting back in April. There were three options. One was the limited, where they truly limited down the number of service. It would be the greatest number of cuts. Enhanced, it took some cuts, but it did the job to where it had more of that balance. And then the third option, which Linninger still supports to this day, is the growth plan. And now that was actually an expansion of services, but it requires additional funding. And so the whole reason that Linninger tells me that he supports the growth plan is because no matter what, like the TARC director said, like Gibson said, we are still facing a financial cliff. This just puts it off by a few years, allows city leaders to kind of figure things out, get to where they can, hopefully get this issue on a ballot, get it to the voters, and then let the voters have the say. And again, like Linninger said, he truly believes that the people of Louisville will step up and get the funding for TARC that it needs, again, through a ballot referendum and ultimately a change in the taxes.
Something before we wrap up, and of course, remind folks, Logan's, the breadth of the reporting, again, is all online, so you can follow the timeline of the changes and the commentary, the propositions that have been made to try to help TARC out of the situation. Just something maybe we're not quite there yet, because as you pointed out, Logan, we're talking changes till mid of next summer, August of 2026. But they were talking about what this public education campaign is going to be. Is it too early to, I don't know if you were able to talk to Director Gibson, and it's just sort of like, how do you prepare riders for these, they're not going to be abrupt changes. They want to let them know ahead of time, but just you're going to have to explain to them what you're used to is not going to be there anymore. Like, we have to make the changes. So how do you get the word out to the very frequent riders, right?
So yes, it was actually during last night's events that we talked to Director Gibson, and I actually wasn't there. I want to thank Marty Pearl, our photojournalist, for going and getting that interview for us. But again, basically what they're planning on doing is from, a little early on, I don't know exact dates, but they do plan for an extended, so months long of an educational period of saying, hey folks, know when your bus is going to be there based on the new route. The tentative date for, again, like you had mentioned, the changes would be late next summer. So again, August of 2026 is when TARC would look to implement this new TARC network. And ultimately, that's going to be a shock to riders unless they put out that information, make sure people know.
And I just wanted to pause the video so you can see here again, just to
good
get a reference of the map. And I see the different color lines. To your knowledge, does the red indicate sort of a speedier route, or they're just color coded for the sake of distinguishing between them?
I'd have to go back and check that.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
It's something. No, it's okay.
but-
Something we
Yeah.
could backtrack and make
I
sure
believe,
people
that is
understand,
more
but-
frequency. But if you folks go online to this web story on wave3.com, this new plan is linked with it. So you'll be able to go in, click on the routes, see the new maps, as well as see, and again, that's if you want to go back to the previous reporting, how it stacks up. Now, I also want to urge you, go to our previous reporting from April. It'll also be linked with this story. You can see what that growth plan looks like, and that would be what we might see in the event that we get, say, that ballot referendum passed, the tax increase goes into effect, TARC gets more money. There would be a realistic chance that we do see more service. That would be closer to the growth plan that the councilman told me he would want to see. So again, if you want to know truly what your money would be going to, that's where you want to go look. We have that story from April, should be linked with this one. And again, yeah, it's just when you fund it, because again, this is going to need funding no matter what. It's going to need funding no matter what. But when you fund it, then the possibilities to get the most service to the most people and diversify it a little more instead of constantly making the cuts, that's ultimately what happens. So again, the report's on wave3.com, and I encourage people to go look at the new map. So one, you know what's coming in August of next year. And then two, look at the older maps, the growth plan, those things that we can kind of say, hey, if we fund it, this is what the intention would be with that money. It would be to expand the services, not cut them.
For sure. Well, as I'm wont to say here on Wave News Extra, when we say we think a story is over, it is not over. It's just a continuation of so what happens now, what's next. And we still have all these months to see how the rollout for the new TARC network is going to work out. Appreciate, by the way, Logan, breaking this down for us. Anything else you want to let the folks tuning in right now just to get more context or things that you'll be that you want to highlight, or things that you'll be interested in moving forward?
Again, I just want to highlight that there's, a number of things going on with TARC, but at the end of the day, this is going to be the biggest impact to everybody. And I say that as in, whether you ride the bus or not, if TARC is going to get more funding, it's going to impact you here in the metro. So if you're in Jefferson County, you watch this and, TARC's going to get more funding, that'll ultimately come out of your paycheck. Again, whether that's incremental, tiny little bits, or nothing at all. Again, what it's going to be is an occupational tax increase will fund TARC. That obviously has to go before the city council. It's got to be brought up, voted on before it even gets on a ballot, but you will have a say in that. So I think that's the important thing I want people to know is, yes, we talk about TARC funding, but ultimately it comes down to what the people, the majority, want here in the metro.
I mean, there's exercising the right to vote if it's brought to a ballot referendum, and whatever the choice of the voting majority would be in that scenario. Again, folks, want to thank our Wave News reporter, Logan Perrone. Logan is reporting all the timeline of this, and what's to come is going to be there for you to check on wave3.com. The free apps you can download on your phone. Logan and the team working day and night just to stay on top of these issues, because we understand that they matter to you, your ability to do what you need to do and move around town. So Logan, always appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break and be right back with much more of tonight's Wave Extra. So we'll see you then. All right, folks, welcome back in. 841. Appreciate you hanging with us as we wrapped up that conversation with our Wave News reporter, Logan Perrone, on these upcoming TARC changes. Again, a reminder, all of the timeline of the reporting, even beyond just from this week, going back to when these changes were likely, coming down the pike for you to catch up on and read everything we'd been learning on as it was happening on wave3.com. Finally, caught the video I needed to show you, as wanted to not leave you all hanging on what I wanted to share, which was this new video to 911 tool for 911 dispatch call takers here in the Louisville Metro. So again, this is our report from our Wave News anchor, Brian Schlonsky.
A successful day in my mind is being able to help at least one person that day.
For 7 years, 911 call taker Devin Levan has been doing just that, helping people during emergencies. Usually, it's the most stressful moments of a person's life.
A young person that's having their first car accident, they're hurt, and it may take them 5 or 6 minutes to calm down. It may take them another 2 to 3 minutes to tell me everything that's happening. Now I have to figure out where they are.
But now, Levan and the other call takers and dispatchers have a new tool to help respond to emergencies faster and know exactly what first responders will be walking into when they arrive.
I believe this new process could help save lives.
The idea is that this is easy to use. If you're having an emergency, you would dial 911 just like you always would. Only with this technology, instead of just telling a dispatcher what's happening around you, you can show them, similar to a FaceTime call.
What our call taker will see is the 911 call come in. They're going to check and say, hey, can I send you a link? Let's see what you see.
Cody Ashbaugh demonstrates video to 911 using Mayor Greenberg's phone.
So directly from here, the call taker can see exactly what's happening on the scene. Likewise, we can take this information and send it directly to police, fire, EMS, and they can view the video live on their way to the scene.
The caller must agree to use the video call after being connected. The videos are recorded and can be blurred. This isn't for minor emergencies. There's a criteria. The hope: respond faster, conserve resources, and save lives. So far, Levan says he loves it.
It gives us another tool to help.
So our thanks to our Brian Schlonsky for that update. Certainly something, again, rising to the tier of a very immediate top tier emergency. Certainly, as a tool to help our first responders out, something we'll certainly be following and how it might make up that little bit of difference when time is of the essence. More stuff to share with you tonight coming from the rest of our Wave News team. In fact, we're actually launching a new show called Wave Rewind. In essence, we've been digging through our massive archives. If you ever come by to the studio, or if you ever here for a visitor interview, our physical archive is stored in its massive original coverage of reports of pivotal moments in Louisville's history. Some of them haven't been dusted off in decades. So in our first episode, we're going to take you back to 1976 when schools here locally in Jefferson County were desegregated. And this was the labor of work from our Wave News reporter, Marissa Burke, sharing what you can expect.
Our first episode in Wave Rewind is called Louisville, the Bus Stops Here. On the surface, you'll see kids getting bused to new schools, but for some, it was bigger than that. That ride was to a better education. As a reminder, we are airing these newscasts and documentaries unedited, the same way they aired decades ago. So when watching, remind yourself of the time period and the attitudes back then. This episode follows different perspectives and how people adjusted to the desegregation of schools in the first year. The first day of busing was September 4th, 1975. No one really knew what to expect, from the kids to the protesters, neighborhood associations, and even the teachers. You'll hear it often referred to as fear of the unknown.
I'm not prejudiced. I've always wanted a black friend, but I don't know. I just wanted to stay home and be at my home school with my friends.
It's going to always be some incidents, I think, as the year goes on, but I think the tenseness for me is over.
For For the full episode of Louisville, the Bus Stops Here, or any of the episodes, you can watch them on the Wave Now app and on our website, wave3.com. I'm your host, Marissa Burke from Wave Rewind.
Appreciate Marissa working on that. Some quick updates to some stories. Otherwise, as we're wrapping up this part of our stream tonight on Wave News Extra, a judge has banned Brooks Hauk from selling most of his property pending a hearing in a wrongful death civil lawsuit that Crystal Rogers' family has filed. So again, a timeline of the case we've been following since the summer trials that just wrapped up. Hauk convicted of Rogers' murder back in July, currently sentenced officially to serve a life sentence in prison. Well, a judge has ordered ban. So Hauk cannot sell or transfer any property held by his businesses that include Hauk Rentals, Select Quality Homes, and Central Kentucky Real Estate Rentals. However, he is allowed to sell lots in the Cooper Field subdivision that he owns in Nelson County. There is an evidentiary hearing for this case coming up on October 8th, something we will certainly send a crew down there to get you that information as it plays out. To a story we're going to have coming up, actually a deeper dive into what was going on tonight. An elaborate layout promising A-list designers, exclusive offers, but it's an event that doesn't exist. The BBB warning folks here in the Metro, don't fall for the scheme, and for others who might be in this world of fashion, because it was a website promoting what they were purporting to be a Louisville Fashion Week. And if you search the URL that people might have seen before, you click on the link, it looks legit. There's an event countdown, an event schedule, a gallery of apparently featured celebrities, going so far as to entice people by saying, oh, Kim Kardashian was going to be there, and a list of real designers promised to be there. It was sold as a 4-day event from November 6th to 9th. But what gets tricky, as sort of saying this doesn't add up, is if you go to the venue tab on the website, it has the Melwood Arts Center as the event venue. The center staff tells us they don't know anything about this event or have anything like this scheduled at their facility. The website also claims some special hotel rates at the Brown Hotel and 21C hotels using a supposed code, but both the hotels say they don't have any special rates as part of that deal. So the website apparently is advertising tickets that are quite pricey, ranging from $500 to $950 million to get in. So as a caution, tonight, the BBB is strongly urging you, do not buy tickets from the website. If you've bought tickets to the event, ask to reach out to your credit card company or your bank, file a fraud alert to try and get your money back. And to that end, our new Wave News reporter, Meredith Lee, is going to get a reaction from one of the brands, the designers that was purportedly sold as someone to meet or to be there at the event. And they're just distancing themselves from whatever the supposed scheme was going to be, to say flatly, we're not involved in this at all. Talk about ways that you can catch these potential scams and schemes so you don't end up having to pay a very pricey ticket to come to this sort of event. Also tonight, we have an exclusive interview with the 2024 Oaks and Derby winning jockey Brian Hernandez Jr. from his hospital room. He was rushed to U of L Hospital on Sunday after he had a very bad fall at Churchill Downs in his third race. His horse, unfortunately, was euthanized. His name was Sergeant Garcia. Wave Sunrise anchor Shannon Cogan was the one to sit down with Hernandez, Brian telling her that he's hopeful he'll be back riding sometime soon.
Brian Hernandez Jr. hasn't seen a replay of the 12-horse race. He remembers what happened.
We were going around the fore turn there at Churchill, and the horse took a funny step, and I came off the side of him, and I landed on my back. And once I landed on my back, we wear safety vests, of course, but once I landed on my back, I'm guessing it was his back leg came, and it stomped down right on my chest here, and it crushed all the ribs. It crushed 7 ribs, and then the liver, cut up the liver, and then collapsed the lung partially. I was fortunate enough not to get run over by anyone else.
He says he knew right away something was broken. His wife, Jamie, was watching the race from home.
It happened, and I texted his agent, was that Brian? And he said, yes. And I said, oh my. And that was it.
Jamie and the kids got in the car as an ambulance rushed Brian to U of L Hospital, where he underwent surgery to stop the liver bleeding. In all his years as a jockey, this is the first time the 39-year-old had to be admitted.
I think the hardest part is like leaving the hospital without him. I'm like, to go home by myself tonight.
He had another surgery Tuesday in which plates and screws stabilized his ribs.
I bet this is like from the horse.
That's where he stepped on us, and they broke all these ribs.
She came here early today.
Now he's already walking the halls of the hospital with visitors. He says in the ambulance, so many thoughts went through his mind.
My first thought in my mind was, oh God, I don't ever want to ride a horse again. But then 2 minutes later, you're thinking, oh, I got to get back to riding because we have so many good horses that are coming up in the next few weeks.
Well, I'm supportive on whatever he wants to do, but I would be okay if he retired tomorrow. I mean, there's both ends of the spectrum. Like, I don't ever want to see him in pain like this, but it's really his choice and what he wants to do with his career.
I really want to get back for Breeders' Cup, which is in 5.5 weeks. And that's my game plan right now, is just work as hard as I can and be back for Breeders' Cup week. You know, we want to get back and win the Derby again. We want to win Oakses again.
Brian says the fall has him putting things into perspective.
Especially in our lifestyle where we're working all the time, and you never really take time for yourself. And when something like this happens, now I'm going to have a few weeks where I can sit back and enjoy the family and go to Ben's soccer games on Saturday. So, you know, look at it the best you can.
Shannon Cogan, Wave News.
Certainly wishing Brian a speedy recovery. Our thanks to Shannon, by the way. If he recovers in time for the Breeders' Cup, Brian would be on Torpedo Anna, whom he won the Oaks on back in 24. Jamie and Brian celebrating their 13th wedding anniversary tomorrow. In fact, they have a lot to celebrate since doctors are telling Hernandez he should be going home soon. Best case scenario that he is able to go tomorrow as well. Of course, you see that as the exclusive story right there at the very top of our homepage, wave3.com. But as a reminder, our digital team updates it to cover and make sure all the top stories are there for you to scroll from the very top through the middle section, local, state, national stories, all right there for you to access very easily. And these are stories you can sign up for the alerts for to come straight to your phone on the Wave News app and on the Wave Weather Now app as well. Appreciate everyone's time. Make sure to join us tonight on Wave News at 11. We've got a great show coming up for you. It's, again, our meteorologist, Ryan Hoke, storm tracking team, letting us know how much more of the rain can we expect as we get closer to the weekend. Our reporters, Julie Richardson and Meredith Lee, with their respective investigations and what they want to share with you as we wrap up on this Wednesday night. Appreciate everyone who's joined us through the Wave Now app on your smart TV devices and on our socials, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. We'll see you back here tomorrow at around 8:05. Until then, take care. Have a good night.